I feel like I'm gonna get hate for this one. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Nick Driver. I'm a New Mexican, and today we're going to be talking about a controversial sign that was put up in Deming, New Mexico, by an Italian restaurant owner that seems to be stirring up a lot of controversy. Basically, the sign says "Blame China." That's it. That's the sign, and that's what's causing all the controversy. So let's go ahead and jump over to the news article by KRQE, and let's dig into this. So the sign outside Deming Italian restaurant stirs up controversy. As you guys can see, "Blame China" is the sign that is stirring up all this controversy. So Deming, New Mexico. Oh, this is by Stephanie Chavez. This was released just the other day. So Deming, New Mexico, a restaurant owner in southern New Mexico is being forced to temporarily close the doors to one of their restaurants and adjust the hours to another because, like a lot of restaurants across New Mexico, they are having a difficult time hiring workers. Now who they're blaming is turning heads and drawing criticism. I mean, it's not a lie to say that China is at fault. It's not 100% the truth either, because it's not just China at fault. But let's go ahead and keep reading into this article. So blame China. That's what a big sign in front of "Forget About It" Southwest Italian in Deming says. "We are not racist. We are not bigots," said Kimberly Yacone, the owner of the Italian eatery. "This thing came from China. It's a known fact," said Yacone. No lie there. The virus came from China. Now, whether you believe it came from the lab or whether you believe it came from the wet market, the fact of the matter is it originated in China, and China's government didn't do a good job of warning others about it or trying to prevent the spread at the beginning of it. So there's not that much falsehood in that statement. All right. Yacone says she and her husband, Robert, blame the Chinese government for the inability to keep their Deming restaurant open. It's kind of weird. It's not really the virus's fault that you're having troubles keeping your restaurant open. The virus definitely played a huge factor in the economy and messed up a lot of people's businesses. But it wasn't the Chinese government that closed down the economy. They just, like I said, didn't really warn people or give them adequate time to prepare for this, and made a big and was hiding it from everybody until it was worldwide. So when we say blame China, yeah, that's where it came from, said Yacone. We're not blaming Chinese American people, she told KRQE's News 13. Up until the pandemic, the Yacone restaurant had been open in Deming for 8 years. Now, like so many restaurants in New Mexico, they are having a hard time finding staff to run the place. When people are making more money on unemployment than they are going back to work, it's hard to find help, said Yacone. That's a fact. That's truth right there. I mean, lots of people right now are making more money on unemployment, and they're waiting till September before they get off unemployment. Now, the government did a good thing and established that they need to start looking for jobs. So they took away the job search requirement for during the pandemic, and then they just initiated it again. So now, if you're on unemployment, you have to, look for a job like you would normally do during unemployment. As for having trouble hiring in the restaurant industry, lots of people complain about it not being a living wage. Well, fact of the matter is most people who should be working in the restaurant industry, or usually are working in the restaurant industry, are usually people that are either getting out of high school and going into college and still have roots at home. Not saying all of them do, because that'd be wrong, but the living wage thing, I mean, I've been working when minimum wage was $7.50 an hour, and I've worked at minimum wage multiple jobs and was able to make a living for myself and control my spending. Budgeting and living within your means is a huge part of that. So blaming a restaurant for saying they're not paying living wages is half of the battle, because it's really a personal responsibility on how you control your money. I mean, if you have 10 streaming services or you have all these subscription services that you're applied to, are they necessary? I mean, I'm pretty sure you can get by living off of 32,000 a year in New Mexico if you're just paying your rent, your electric, your water, and if you have a car payment, that's you should really try to avoid a car payment when you're working a low rate paying job. You should try and buy a car that's either all the way paid off or whatnot. But at the same time, it's understandable you want a car payment. But as long as you're only paying your four basics and your cable or your internet, because everyone needs internet, you should be pretty much fine. It's all that extra stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the minimum wage shouldn't increase because inflation is becoming a crazy thing here in New Mexico, which a lot of people are ignoring, is the inflation rate of our dollar bill. And, the mass printing of money isn't helping that at all. All right. So KRQE News 13 asked her if the sign on the property instigates violence against the Asian community. I don't think it does, Yacone told News 13. That's towards the Chinese government, she said. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people who will take that as instigate violence towards the Asian community, which is a shame because, it doesn't say blame the Chinese. It says blame China, which means the Chinese government. But at the same time, there's a lot of people out there who are going to assume that it instigates violence against the Asian community. However, people on social media don't agree with her. In the past few days, some bad reviews have come up on their Facebook page from people who say they refuse to support their business and call them bigots. Yacone says she's received calls too, defending their stance. It's just ridiculous to say that we're racist, she said. Of course, on social media, everybody is going to have their opinion. They're all on their computer behind a keyboard. Some of them might not even be here in New Mexico, but they still have the opportunity because they saw this somewhere on the news, on someone's feed, on someone's page or whatever. It's been shared. It's on a news site. So I wouldn't doubt that it's picked up some traction outside of the state and outside of that city. So, I'm here in Albuquerque and I'm talking about it. It's in Deming. And, I don't know how many Asians live in Deming. But at the same time, yet again, the sign says blame China, not the Chinese. I don't know what else to say about that. We asked her if they have any intent to take down the sign, but Yacone says the sign will remain up. It is what it is, she said. It is what it is. It's her business. It's her First Amendment right. She can have these up if she wants. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. It's part of our Constitution. And if you don't support our First Amendment right, then there is something wrong with you. Because we need to be able to have our free speech. The more you restrict our speech, the more you're giving our freedoms away to the government, the more we become enslaved. They're already doing it with inflation and taxation. And now, trying to silence our speech and take away our guns is just the next step. It's just the next step. So KRQE reached out to the ACLU of New Mexico about the sign. In the statement, they said, "This sign simply replays the Trump administration's tactic of dodging blame for its failures by playing to radical antagonism towards Asian Americans. We've seen how this inspires hate and violence against the Asian community. Instead of contributing to these kinds of divisions in our country, we should be pulling together to defeat the virus." That was Peter Simonson, executive director of the ACLU in New Mexico. I'm not a big fan of the ACLU because I think they're really one of the ones that are fighting to take away your freedoms. Even though they're trying to say they're fighting for equality, it seems all they do is fight to take away your freedom, no matter what. Now, they're saying that this replays Trump's administration's tactic of dodging blame. Trump didn't dodge the blame of anything. He did what he did. He did what he could with what he had available to him. The Chinese government did not give him the information in time, and by the time we knew about it, we had to scramble. As Americans, we just had to scramble. We just threw things together because the Chinese government was locking people up and banishing people basically and preventing them from speaking out about the virus until it was already in foreign countries. So I don't know what you guys want to say or what you believe in, but I will tell you this: it's not China's fault for you not being able to hire workers. That is a fact. All right. But it is China's fault for not warning us about the pandemic and giving us an actual fighting chance to set up things to curb the spread right off the beginning. Now, we're over a year into this. The curve has been flattened. Vaccines are being distributed and all that fun stuff. So, I mean, at this point in time, it's really coming down to who are you trying to hire? Are you being picky about it? Are you guys good bosses? Are you offering benefits? Are you offering any type of assistance? And then, yeah, unemployment. Unemployment is going to need to end, and it's going to end soon. And once it ends, and lots of these people are going to be forced back to work, along with the mortuariums. I can't even say that word right sometimes. With the bills that, like the P&M bills and the rent bills. Once all this comes up, we're going to see a different crisis in itself. I mean, right now we're talking about businesses struggling to hire. And then it's going to come down to people, even though they're getting hired and have jobs, aren't going to be able to afford to pay back whatever debts or whatever things they've accumulated over this time. And that's something we should be worried about as New Mexicans and focus on that. Now, would I put this sign up in front of my business? No. I mean, it should be an obvious statement. Like, it doesn't need to be put and broadcasted out on my building. But what I would do is I would open my doors. I wouldn't require a mask, and I wouldn't have followed these mandates, and I would have hired people and served people who agreed with me. I would have fought just like Backstreet Grill did and made sure everyone knows this is my right. I'm serving people. We are going to be just fine. But instead, you go ahead and pass the blame. Pass the blame on whoever you want. I mean, everyone wants to blame each other, and nobody wants to take personal accountability. And that's really where the downfall is coming from, is the lack of personal responsibility and accountability among citizens and among our politicians. We need to be holding our politicians to these standards and not letting them get away with these draconian lockdowns, not letting them get away with these mask mandates. Those are against the Constitution, against our rights. We as people can choose how we respond to things, and we need to be able to hold ourselves accountable to it. Now, don't get me wrong. At the beginning of the pandemic, yes, we should have all been on the same page, until we started getting some numbers. But as soon as the numbers started rolling out, we learned a lot of stuff about it. So why did we continue doing it? Why weren't we fighting back? Why did we just sit back and allow all this to continue on? I don't know. Like I said, the sign itself was stupid. They should have just went ahead and continued business as normal and protested that way instead, and used their word of mouth and talked to people in person. But, this also may end up getting them a boost in business as well, and support for people who believe in what they're standing up for. We'll see how this turns out. Tell me what you guys think. Do you guys think this is crazy, that they're wrong? Do you think this should even made news? Like, I don't believe this is news. I think we're running out of things. I mean, to talk about. They bring up Trump because they want to talk about Trump. But I mean, I don't think Trump did a horrible job with the information he had and the time frame he did it in. I mean, he was able to get vaccines out by the beginning of this year, and they're being pushed out. So if you need a vaccine, or if you want a vaccine, go get it. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. For the rest of us that don't want to wear a mask and don't get a vaccine, that's perfectly fine too. We live in America. Enjoy it. Anyways, that's all I got for y'all today. Thank you all for stopping by. My name's Nick Driver. I'm a New Mexican, and I care about you.